If you're like me, you've redlined this event in your agenda for weeks at a time. I've been looking forward to it because anybody who is curious about what is professional speaking like, they'll want to listen to what our speaker has to say today. So we'll have two people. Alain Guillot is our host, of course, a Renaissance man, an entrepreneur, a podcaster, blogger, a money coach, and I don't know what tomorrow will bring for Alain, but he brings his energy and his questions to our panel today. Please help me welcome Alain. Alain's guest today is none other than Suzannah Baum. Suzannah Baum is a professional speaking coach. She helps managers and other corporate people improve their presentation skills and speaking skills. What many people don't know is that she first started her journey into that role right here in this room as a McGill Toastmaster X years ago. Now, if you know Suzannah, you will think of champagne. That's how I think of her. When you drink champagne, there's a little tickle in the nose. Because when she speaks, you're always on the verge. You're just about to laugh. There's something that's funny that's going to come out, and it leaves you with a warm feeling once you've had it. So that's what Suzannah reminds me of, and I hope you'll have the same feeling tonight. Please help me welcome Suzannah Baum.
Thank you for joining us, Suzannah.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me.
So you were a part of this club for many years before I came. So I only heard about you. One time I saw you giving a speech here, and then I know that you have been judged in other Toastmasters competitions. So that's how I came to know you. But can you tell us? Can you go a little bit back and tell us who were you before even you became a member of Toastmasters?
Oh, good question. Who was I? So I was someone very, very terrified over public speaking. So I originally came to this club, I think it was in 2002, and I came because it was my cousin in California, in Oakland, was a member of a Toastmasters Club, and he was in sales, and he was doing really well for himself, and I was kind of floating. I was in my mid-20s, floating around, terrible jobs, didn't know what to do with my life, and he said, you should check out Toastmasters. So I kept that in the back of my mind, and during one particularly bad spell of a job, I decided that it was time to come and check out Toastmasters, and I came here. I sat like right in the back, right over there as a guest, and when it came time to introduce myself, to stand up and introduce myself, I almost passed out. I was so nervous, and I was so traumatized after that meeting and watching the speakers. There was at the time it was called the CTM1 and I think a CTM4, and I thought they were so magnificent that there was no way I could fit into this group of people, and I left. And I said, this Toastmasters is just not for me. And then as the job situation kept getting worse, 6 months later, you reach that point where you're like, okay, I should try something again because things are not getting better. So I came back here. This time I got a seat at the table because it was the summer. So there was a little bit more space. There were only like 17 members or something at that time. And I made it through the introduction phase, and I was kind of ready to see these great speakers. But then the atmosphere was right, the chemistry was right, I was more ready. And I said, okay, I'll give it a few months. I'll see how it goes. But because the club was so small, I was actually Leela's daughter, Millie, who right away sort of took me under her wing and just threw me in. She started scheduling me for roles, and within a few weeks they said we need a spot on the board. So they didn't even give me a chance to leave. Then I was stuck here, and I stayed for another 8 years.
Okay, so you came here, you were petrified, and
Yeah.
you were so petrified you left, and then you came back. Now, can you take us to the progression of that person who is shy to speak in front of a public to a person who became proficient as a public speaker? Take us through that road of progression.
Okay, so as I'm sure many of you have discovered, standing in front of the room can be a very terrifying experience. But after you do it a few times and after you enjoy the supportive atmosphere, the supportive, fun, encouraging atmosphere that is always unique to this club, I've always found, it gets a bit easier, right? And the fun, it gets a little bit more fun. So after several months, I think a few of us were given an opportunity. It was the McGill professional alumni or something. They had contacted McGill Toastmasters and they said, can you send us 4 people who can give just a series of mini presentations to our alumni? And so I don't remember what it was, but it was a McGill group. So I was brave enough. I think I was in Toastmasters for about 6 months or a year at that point, and I said, okay, it's time to step out of my comfort zone, because I think we all feel that here. Sometimes you make these little strides and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm speaking in public. I can't believe I'm going to Toastmasters. And you go through these moments where you're like, okay, I think I'm ready. Let me try this out. Speaking outside the club, like, can it really be, like, can I make it, right? So we all, 4 of us, had like a 5 to 7 minute speech. I practiced it like 7 million times, because that's how I would always write the entire speech. I would practice and memorize. And we came in and we gave this presentation. So during the presentation, there were about 30 people in the room, and they were all wearing suits, and they were all, they had nice shoes, and they all looked very, very successful. And they were kind of set up classroom style, and there were these 2 women right in front of me, and I could tell they were successful because the suits, and they had these fancy pens, and I thought, if you have a fancy pen, then you're like, kind of made it. And as I was talking, they started to write down what I said. And if I could tell you that if there's just that one moment where lightning strikes and says, this is where everything changes, right? Because up to that point, I was shy, I was quiet growing up in my family. I was the quiet one. It was other family members, my brother, my dad, they were the loud ones, and I kind of sank into the background. So I wasn't used to people thinking that what I was saying was very important. So the fact that these 2 important ladies, who were important because the pens, that they thought what I was saying was important enough to actually write it down, was such a moment that I left that night going, how do I do this for a living? Like, I was ready to just stop what I was doing, but of course I still had to eat and pay rent, so I couldn't just stop what I was doing, but it got the ball rolling, It allowed me to talk to people and tell them that this is what I wanted to do, and it was again through McGill Toastmasters. A McGill Toastmasters named Vicky Curl, who was president in 2002, I think, just as I came in. She was teaching a class at McGill, a public speaking class, just for non-credit. And after I started talking about it enough, that this is what I wanted to do, she said, listen, I'm ready to leave the post, so if you want it, it's yours. So it was like that moment where everything started to align, but talking about it helped, letting people know what I wanted helped, because then, I guess the universe hears a little bit clearer. And it's been an interesting journey since then. I mean, it took a while to get the business running. There was a lot of speaking for free, a lot of mistakes, a lot of messing up in front of audiences. But it was continually getting myself out there, and despite whatever feelings of I'm not worthy or imposter syndrome that continues every now and then to sort of take me by surprise, it's just a matter of, accepting that and pushing it aside and just moving forward anyways. So.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you were a member of the club,
Yeah.
you get invited to do this presentation, then it so happens that someone asked you to fill up for this class. It was just, once a week or something like that?
It was once a week, a
Once a
6-week
week.
course.
Okay, so
Yeah.
how did that develop into, and you had a job at that time, I assume?
Yeah.
You were eating, so...
I was eating. Always eating.
So then from that one class, what is the transition from you making this a business? I mean, you didn't quit your job, I hope, or I think. So
No.
and you spoke also about giving a lot of free speeches. Also, how does that work? If any one of our members want to start giving free speeches, how do they go around to give free speeches?
Oh, okay. So, because I was teaching at McGill, I guess somewhere along the line, someone else in McGill, the first year office, and the backpack to briefcase, the alumni, they heard that I was speaking at McGill. So it was an easier way for me to sort of come in there. But sometimes I was approached. I know that's not like, that's like the easy answer. Oh, they asked me. No, but it wasn't always like that. Sometimes I would have to go out and say, well, this is what I'm doing. Like I've been in, and I used McGill Toastmasters as a big source of expertise. I said, I've been in McGill for this long. I'm teaching this 6-week course. I'm available to give a 1-hour, 2-hour workshop for the students. And most of the time, there's a lot of departments around here that like speakers, and they want speakers to come in for the students. They want the students to learn and benefit from this. I think there's a lot of in-house training, so a lot of McGill admin will give the training. So if someone's offering to come in for no money, I think that helps. But then the no money, you know, you use it as, it was powerful for me at the time to say McGill was a client, to get a bunch of testimonials. You know, it was a slow start. I mean, there was no overnight success story here. It was painstakingly building a website, speaking for free, getting the logos, getting approvals, getting testimonials, and just trying to roll it like that. The first time I got paid, I think it was either $75 or $300. I thought I was like a millionaire. That I was like, I can't believe I'm getting paid, but it was like that one.
Can you tell us
time.
about that one time? Who hired you?
Yeah, that was
Why?
the McGill.
How did you propose yourself?
And McGill backpack to briefcase. I think Monica also spoke for them. You were there too? You attended? Yes, you attended, I remember. You took pictures. I don't, you know what, I wish I could, it may have just been my name out there. It could have been networking. Like, you really just have to put your name out there,
And
right?
you will do workshops on how to be a speaker?
No, well, how to be better at public speaking.
Okay.
So at the time, it really was kind of taking what I learned in Toastmasters and formatting it. And then in 2009, I got my first corporate training for like real money,
Wow.
which was pretty exciting.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, all through this time, you still have a regular job because
Yes.
from speaking for free, it still doesn't pay the rent. Can you explain the mindset, okay, I'm doing all this free speaking gig, now I'm going to quit my job and I'm going on my own. I'm going to put my shingle as a trainer and I'm going to develop this business.
Okay, so my journey was there were a few hiccups along the way because just as my business started getting, it's the universe that took care of me. So I had a full-time job working at an IT company. I didn't like it. I was doing this on the side. I was trying to work from home as a consultant, but eventually they said, you have no choice, you have to work in the office, you have to be here 9 to 5. Very unpleasant job. I knew it was the wrong fit for me. And just a few days before, I had been telling my husband, I want to leave, I gotta leave, I can't take it anymore, I don't want it anymore. And he said, you know, what any reasonable person would say, well, find another job, find another job, and then you can still do all this stuff on the side, but find another job. And then luckily, like 3 days later, they laid me off. So, woo. So it was, to me, a blessing in disguise. I mean, it meant that I had to live off the savings a little bit. Now then the business started ramping up, and then I went ahead and got pregnant. So that was another, you know, productivity kill right there. So then I took a year and a half off. But when I came back, I guess the other thing that really made a difference, a huge difference, and because you're in Toastmasters, you will understand this. It's all about the people that you surround yourself with. The mindset, right? So when I left Toastmasters, I was just starting at the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. So it's an association of speakers, and there, like Toastmasters, I was just surrounded by just brilliance, right? Just surrounded by people who were doing what I wanted to do. And I was a little shell-shocked at the beginning because I really wanted to make this brand business, but I still didn't understand how you make it sustainable. And right at the beginning, we had these mastermind sessions, we'd have these workshops, and all of a sudden I was meeting people who were sustainably speaking through training, through facilitation, through coaching, through keynotes, but all different types of business models with different expertise. And again, at the beginning, I thought they were all competitors, so how am I supposed to learn, or how am I supposed to share what's secret to me, or what? But it wasn't. I mean, we're all speakers, but we speak on different things, and it really, there's that law of abundance thing that even though within CAPS there are 5 or 6, we're like 46 members, there may be 6 or 7 other speaking coaches and speaking trainers, but the type of people who would hire, you know, one of them wouldn't necessarily be the kind of person who would be attracted to me, and the type of people who are attracted to me wouldn't necessarily go to them. So it all sort of works out in the end.
Okay, and now, okay, so now you are a trainer, you're a public speaker. Can you define that for us? What is it like? I mean, most of us have an office job. We go to the office 9 o'clock, we get out of 5, we either follow orders or take initiative, but you don't have a boss, you are your own boss. So can you tell us the structure of your working life?
I wish, you know, okay, so I work from a home office, which I think a lot of people say, well, don't you have lots of time and it's very flexible. So yes, and the other side is that my office is in the house, so I always kind of want to work, right? I don't always want to work, but there is always work, and I could be doing it at 10 o'clock at night, and I could be doing it on Sunday morning, and because I enjoy what I do, and this is where I feel I'm supposed to be, I feel compelled to always do it. And it's a never-ending choice of where you focus, like at work. I mean, you take initiative, or you just execute the tasks. But the never-ending, you know, machine that is keep yourself out there, keep creating content, stay in touch with people, respond to proposals. You know, it's always moving. It doesn't really stop. So it takes discipline to know when to step back, and you know, I'm not sure that there really is balance, to tell you the truth. I think balance is a bit of a myth. Some days I will spend more time with my family, and some days I will be able to work more, and then, you know, and the days that I spend with my family, sometimes when everyone goes to bed, then I'll just, you know, I'll hit the computer for 2 more hours. But it's how it works for me, I guess.
Okay, as a speaker, your main job is to speak. How often does that happen? Once a week, on the weekends, on weekdays, corporations, charity? What's the speaking life like?
Okay, so it's not as glamorous as we. There are times when, I mean, we're being honest here, even though I'm on camera. We'll be honest and say that there are times when weeks will go by that there's maybe no speaking engagement, but I have coaching clients who I will meet either in person or online, because sometimes they're not in Montreal. But there were times when in my business I've gone months without any training, workshops, or speaking engagements, and it's all coaching. And then there are times when it's once a month, but it's a big training course that takes a lot of preparation, like a lot of customization, a lot of working back and forth with the client to really figure out what the audience needs to hear, because I don't go in with like a canned program. I have what is the base of the expertise, but I customize as extensively as possible.
Okay, my partner and I, we have a dance school, and our business is seasonal. During the winter, we have practically no business, and then there's that fear, oh my God, people are going to stop, people are never going to dance again, and fear, we think it's the end of the world, and it's tough. How do you deal, I assume there is seasonality also in speaking, and how do you deal psychologically and emotionally with those down periods?
Do I look like I'm psychologically like it's you know, a panic comes in waves, right? It's some days you're so busy and you're like, I can't keep up, and other days you're like, wow, I really don't know where the next great client is coming from. Last year I had these fantastic clients that came in with the big money and they flew me to places and it was so great, and then I'm like, but there was a one-shot deal. So it's not like this is a recurring client that I can go, okay, great, well, they'll be this year and next year, and I can't count on them. A lot of them are what I call the one and done, you know? You come in, do the training, everyone loves you, and then, you know, you think, okay, well, let's talk about follow-up coaching and, you know, what can we continue to do? How can we continue to keep the learning going? And they're like, yeah, oh, great, love it, great idea. And then I never hear from them again. Right? And you come with all these ideas and all these proposals and they're like, okay, we're super busy, and then, you know.
So how do you do
You
that?
roll with the punches, I guess. Liz, there's always things to do. I go in terms of, like, there's waves of gratitude. Sometimes I'm very grateful when things completely slow down, because then I can try to, you know, just catch up on blog entries, do something to my website, create some new promotional materials, or work on a new program, or work on an online program. Like, it's, I need that quiet time, and then sometimes I think, oh great, quiet time, I'll have so much time to get everything done, like we all say this over the holidays, I'm gonna catch up on everything. And then in the end, you do nothing, right? But that's also a piece of it, is that it's important to do nothing sometimes, because you can wear yourself down easily, because there's no, like, when it's your own thing and you love it and you do it by choice, you'll just keep doing it. And then do it till 10 o'clock, do it till 11 o'clock, catch up on Sunday mornings. Like, you're always just rushing for that hour in front of the computer to catch up on stuff. And it's important sometimes with the downtime. Do you use the downtime for work, or do you use the downtime to just meet friends for lunch, you know, and go to the gym? Because that's taking care of yourself also is important, because if I'm exhausted, I can't think properly in front of an audience, and if I can't think properly in front of an audience, I'm doomed, right?
What's
That's
the
it.
most rewarding speaking gig that you have done until now?
Okay, there have been a few, but last year I had my first international event where I went to Panama. So it was a group of female engineers in a risk management insurance company, but they came from all over South America. They were flown to Panama, and we went through a full day and a half program, and then a boat ride. So, yeah.
Okay,
There were
so
boats, yeah.
you see, we have a full house today.
Yeah.
All of us want to become better communicators, better speakers, and even some of us would like to make this a profession.
Mm-hmm.
So, two questions. First of all, as a professional speaker, what are some tips that you could share with us to continue improving our craft?
Okay.
And the follow-up question is, if some of us would like to make this a career, as you are doing, and go through all your emotional ups and downs, but that's where we want to go anyways, what would be a roadmap for us to follow?
Okay. What was the first question? It was.
How can we become as good a speaker as you?
Oh, well, okay, I wouldn't say that, because it's how can you become as good a speaker as you, right? Everybody comes with their own unique talent, their own unique skill, and, you know, there's good speakers out there, but everybody in here is just as good, right? And I think the secret really is, I mean, there's a couple of pieces to it. So the things that I learned in Toastmasters, how important it is to listen well. And so, you know, we come here to learn to speak, but in fact, the greatest thing that I got out of here was how to, it's not just active listening. Everyone goes, it's active listening. It's like fanatical listening. And luckily, Toastmasters trains you, because you have to evaluate speeches and you have to evaluate meetings. And I found that this is like just an underused skill, and I think people are losing the ability to listen. And it's places like Toastmasters that will remind you how important it is to really listen beyond what's being said, right? To see the full picture of what they're saying and how they're saying it. So that's a big piece, because wherever you go, I find people are just not great listeners anymore. So when you can be a great listener, it sort of distinguishes you, because you need to be able to help others. And to be a great speaker, you have to understand what the audience needs, right? It's not about you stepping up and performing and, you know, I'm acting and using the right body language and eye contact around the room. Like, it's as important as it is as those platform skills are. just as important is the ability to create a message that the audience needs to hear, right? Like that there is a problem or a pain or something out there, and you and your expertise and your skill can help move them to a solution, right? So I think everybody has that ability in them. Then, rely on your own self, believe in the skill that you have. And I mentioned before the imposter syndrome, where you feel like, what am I doing here? Like, I can't believe these people are here. Like, they're all gonna see that I'm a complete fraud and I don't know what I'm doing. Like, and yet they don't. I mean, maybe some of them do, but they're nice enough not to tell you. But I think that's the first thing, is that really sort of connect with who you are as a speaker and what feels comfortable for you. But at the same time, really, you gotta focus on the audience. Like, you're there to deliver value and deliver a compelling message. So, whereas sometimes in contests, I know Toastmasters contests, sometimes there's the opening of the shirt, and there's the props, and I know there's a big debate about what happens at the international contest, that there's always a prop, and people are upset that can't you just go up there and be an authentic speaker, and I would agree that leave the props behind and just be yourself, be authentic, but focus on, not what a great speaker you are and how confident you feel, but how are you making your message relevant and meaningful to the audience? So that's one angle. I think the whole mindset sort of needs to shift in that way. Okay, and I'm asking this question on behalf of the public, but in reality it's me. How can I become a professional public speaker? Offer to speak at associations and at Rotary clubs, and it's about practicing the craft. But I think it's about figuring out where your expertise lies. Like, you choose what it is you want to speak about, and then become an expert there, because people want to hear the experts. They want to learn from you. They don't want to learn from you, the good public speaker. They want to learn what you can teach them. Right. At the same time, and there's one other thing, is surround yourself with people who are doing what you want to do. So for a while, for a good 8 years while I was in this club, I was surrounded by people who were doing exactly what I wanted to do, and I learned from them, and I learned from every single member at McGill. And then when I moved to CAPS, the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers, they were people who were doing, at that next level, what it was I wanted to do. So sort of figure out where those people are and make your way in there. Well, I think this is fantastic. We're going to open it up for the public to see if anyone has any questions that they would like to ask Suzannah. So anyone has a question for Suzannah? Oh, okay.
I've seen you on the news a couple of times, and how did you become the voice in Montreal for a public speaker that you seem to be the go-to?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I know. Like, I don't take for granted any of this. Like, I still sometimes wake up and go, how on earth did this happen? And I will still say, it's all started with McGill Toastmasters. Like, I really will. No, for real. I'm not even sucking up to you guys. Like, it's for real. So how did the media thing happen? Is that?
Yeah, actually I'm curious, did appearing there actually lead to other contracts? I'm curious about that.
No, the media never really helped get,
No.
I don't think so, but it's a marketing piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was a very powerful marketing piece that you then, strategically market all over the place, right? So I got there, I got an introduction to because someone else I knew had a spot. The funny thing about the media and the radio is that they're very often looking for people with a particular expertise. Like, they have to use it, like, they have slots. And so sometimes I think anyone, if you have a contact in or a name or an appropriate way in, that sometimes just pitching them something interesting, different, relevant is enough to get on. So I don't know how it became that way, but then you build a relationship. There's a lot of relationship building. Thank you, send thank you cards, thank you emails, be just very appreciative of everything that they help you with, because it was helpful to me to get that.
So to clarify, was that a public service announcement, or was it a paid-for advertisement that you did?
No. It was a segment. I've been on CJAD, so they sometimes will call in, or I go to the studio and they just ask questions about public speaking. How do you get over a fear of public speaking? Sometimes I've been on Global News or Breakfast TV to talk about the Oscar speeches the day after, body language in the political debates. So I don't pay for it. I don't get paid for it.
Neither way.
Yeah, no. But it's free marketing. So I mean, it's not free, so I have to go pay to get my hair done. It's like a whole thing, and it's a big deal, for women. For men, not so much. But the whole choosing the outfits, getting the hair done, the makeup, it's an all-day affair. Right. I don't wake up with.
Suzannah, talking about marketing.
Yeah.
It's more about the business. What's your marketing tool number one? Right now, like if you have say one marketing tool, which one is it?
To be a speaker, like
no,
for
in
speaking?
general, in your business, not to be a speaker, but what's the marketing tool that you use the most?
I mean, I think you have to have a website, right? I mean, the website is like the central repository for everything. So any video I make, any media experience, anything at all, like it all gets up on the website. Every testimonial, every customer logo, everything gets put there. So that if any time somebody, when people call me, I'll often ask, like, how did you find me? And they'll say Google, right? They put in public speaking trainer. And I think it's because it's just been a long time since 2009 was my first website. So the more you got to keep putting stuff on the website so you look like you're not I guess, I don't know what the term is, that you're current, right? And then Google puts you up there. But then, they come to the website, they check a few things, they say they look at my videos, they look at the blog, they look at the customer list, and then they call, right? So it kind of goes through that chain. So I think the website is like the key piece.
When it comes to the corporate clients, in your experience, how is things like technology or more remote teams or decentralized working, how has that affected the way that corporate clients procure the service of a public speaking training?
You mean when they're not going to bring them all in one place, like that?
Yeah, like to corporations out there, what does public speaking mean versus what it might have meant 10 years ago?
Well, I think 10 years ago or 20 years ago, it was maybe an older model of like, help me feel more confident. And our people go up, and even to this day, they'll get a call and they'll say, our people aren't, some of them are nervous, and some of them, that their voices are not as good as they could be. But now I'm finding that all the calls that I get are more like they're not engaging the audience. So people are really starting to turn towards the audience and say, they're good, but they get in front of the client and they clam up. But in the end, they can't push the audience push their audience over to their point of view. They're not persuasive enough. They're not inspiring enough. They're not really captivating or connecting with the audience. So now how can I make them connect better with the audience? So for me, it's all about looking at what it is, like what are you trying to say to them, and really in what way do you project your expertise in a way that the audience needs to hear. So when they come through with remote teams, I mean, I've worked with remote teams before where they'll bring you in on some like online system, right? Like Skype or Zoom or something like that they're all over the place, but they come in through a group coaching, and it's fantastic because I don't have to leave my house. No, I mean, it's great. Like last year there was, somebody wanted me to go to Buffalo, and I thought, Buffalo's not that far, but has anyone here ever tried to fly to Buffalo from here? It's like a 14-hour ordeal. Like there's nothing direct. You have to, from Toronto, you have to get to Toronto and then over. And it was ridiculous. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't charge them enough because I have to spend 14 hours on 2 separate days traveling. Like this is ridiculous. And then somehow I managed to convince them that it would be just as effective if, I was in my, home office and they were in Buffalo, and they bought it. And and it was great because it was effective. Like everyone has this feeling like I need to see you in person. I need to feel it's different in person. But then once you start talking over a good quality video, it's, the importance is that they're getting the content and they're getting the expertise, and not necessarily that they could, you know, coach me in person, right?
I do like the coaching.
Yeah, but then, it's fine, yeah.
Daniel, you had a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe half of the room are not, they don't have English as their native language, they're not English speakers. How much is the barrier language to be a professional speaker?
I'd almost ask Monica to answer that question, right? Well, because
Okay.
Monica's a professional speaker and English is not your first language, right?
Yeah, it's true.
It's true. I think, you know, I mean, so is the question more like, because your English isn't as fluent, or the market for people?
No, I mean that, is it a barrier when you go to the further levels to be a professional speaker, or can it be solved, and what are the recommendations?
Oh, I don't think it's a barrier at all. I think the first barrier is that we think it's a problem. And so we say, well, you know what, it's English is like my second or third or fourth language, so I couldn't possibly, right? So that's, I think, the first thing to just throw out the window, because there's a lot of brilliant people out there who don't speak English as a first language, and does not mean that they should hold themselves back. I mean, so there's an accent. I mean, we figured out, like, if we're interested enough in what you have to talk about, and assuming that the audience is coming to hear you speak, because then their ear will get trained to it pretty quickly.
Good.
All right, I have a question for you. I want to know, do you mainly train individuals, or it's corporates only, or you can also train individuals?
Yeah, both. So I'll work one-on-one if someone has a particular presentation that they have to get ready for. So we really sort of dig deep into that and create. And then, you know, we craft the content first and then move on to delivery, and group trainings.
You want?
I have one last question is
Sure.
regarding the listeners, that you were saying that it was difficult sometimes because people don't listen. How do you approach corporate business people, friends, family, or someone that maybe is very smart, very good, but you need to tell them, like, you need to listen?
Oh.
This happened mostly in business, I think, but how do you approach that?
When someone just needs to shut up and listen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried that with my dad, it never worked. Family, don't tell family, it's just leave family alone. You know, it's, I think sometimes you have to listen to them first and really understand why they keep talking. I often find that there are some people who it's not possible to work with them. That those people who say, and again, maybe in Toastmasters we've heard this, I'm not nervous as a speaker, so I don't need coaching. Like, I'm fine with public speaking because I'm not nervous. And I'll just say, like, but it's not about you being nervous, and it's not about you being confident. It's about what the audience needs to hear. So with the very difficult people, sometimes it just doesn't work out. Like, there's only so much you can fight and push. If someone doesn't want to, if they don't want what you have, then, I mean, other people will, right? So there's only so much you can sort of fight against that. Does that sort of answer your question? Like, I know it's kind of a weird answer. It's like, well, then just give up and quit, move on, right? I mean, but you know, I mean, listen, try to understand where they're coming from, and if there is a point where they're just like, listen, I'm fine, I know everything, and there's nothing you can teach me more, well, then your efforts are better used somewhere else, right? Your skills and talents are better used with someone who wants to hear them.
Okay, Miss Donna.
What are your tips to get rid of nervousness?
So I think very often nervousness comes, at least with my clients, I'll say that nervousness comes because they're not 100% confident about the content of what they're presenting. That so many of the presentations we watch now and listen to are like just these information dumps. It's so much information here, take this, take that, do what you want with it. You know, the audience will, the right people will know what to do with it, and but I really think it's up to the speaker to craft a message that is more structured, that's more focused. So I think part of the confidence issue is because we're not clear 100% on what we want to say, on the structure, on the focus. Is it going to land on the audience the right way? So I think my first is really get clear on what you want to say and build a very structured presentation and understand that the audience benefits from stories and the audience benefits from examples and creating a vision of what, taking them on a journey, I guess. It's like the ups and downs of a speech journey to make it more interesting for them. But barring that, you're still going to walk in front of a crowd and be nervous. And I think that's something that may never go away. It still happens to me constantly. Depending on the audience, sometimes I'll be super nervous, right? Super nervous. So I practice like fanatically. I practice out loud and then I audio record myself and then I listen back. I find that audio recording is almost better than video because when I'm watching myself on video, it helps to see how I stand and move. But when I listen to the speech on audio, I can really connect with the content and really listen as like an objective third party. So, and just keep going over it. But the structure, keeping a structure to the speech, because the fear is always, am I going to forget what I'm going to say up there? So, I like to put sort of backup plans in place where if I can have like a note, little notes that I could put off on the side, then I'll do that. If I can't, then it has to be a structure that's so like focused that if I forget a story or something I want to say, I know exactly what's supposed to come next, right? But it's also a result of a lot of practice, right? And it's boring sometimes, the practice part. It can be very boring, but once you get started, it's crucial. It's a crucial piece.
Marna, one last question?
Yes.
Well, actually, I was going to ask the converse of Yvonne's question. Are there clients you don't want to deal with? What are there ethical barriers? Are there things that you say, no, that's not my role?
Ethical barriers. I don't think I've come up with anything of an ethical barrier. I did have a situation in the summer where a CEO called me, a CEO of an IT company, and he said, I want you to coach our chief financial officer because he's a great speaker, but he speaks too fast and he needs help. We really think he needs help. But then, and I was like, well, I need to talk to him because I need to see if he's open to this. But he was one of those guys who was like, I'm the best speaker there is. Like, my feedback I get is like, after I speak at a conference, 95% of the people come up to me and say, that was the best speech I ever heard. So, Suzannah, why don't you tell me why I should use your service? And at that point I was like, oh, this is not a conversation. Like, I was like, I'm not here to sell myself. I was like, why do you think they think you need coaching? Like, I'm not here to sell that. So again, like that's the person who I find most difficult to work with. But in the end, they were like, you know what, I think we're going to pass on this. And I was like, oh my God, right? Because I don't necessarily want to say no to a client because I do like eating, right? But I knew I was going to have my work cut out for me with people who don't see the value in it. And if they don't see the value, that's fine. Like, I need to then focus on finding people who do see the value.
Everyone, let's give a round of applause.